Okay, let us start. Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I have completed the technical particulars of circuit breaker discussions in the previous class. Today, I will talk about some of the fault relevant topics. I guess you already have completed your power system analysis in the previous semester, so you should have properly known about the different types of fault, the nature of the faults. Okay, so I will not go in details with this type of faults. Rather than I will focus on the fault clearing devices or the devices which are associated with the fault involvement. Okay, so I think this figure is also known to you. I'm just giving it to you to get some ideas uh, about some of the properties from the fault analysis waveform, that what should do and when it should do, okay, and why it is happening here. Okay, but I think you are quite familiar with this type of things in your power system analysis courses, don't you? You should have studied about different types of fault, then fault current waveform. I think you already have known this. Can you comment on that? Have you discussed those things? How this fault current becomes, when the fault current becomes how much? These are the things. Have you read it?
Sir, we cannot take that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Say it properly.
Yes, sir. We cannot take these things, but we can take off a few, sir, about the symmetrical fault and symmetrical fault like this.
Okay, but what about the transient analysis in the fault current? Are you familiar with this kind of figure?
No, sir.
You're not.
All right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So as we are dealing with switchgear and protective devices, that means we are specifically dealing with abnormal situations, and to more little bit specific, that we want to deal with the faulty conditions in the power system. Okay, so that's why the power system course, power system analysis course was designed to you, to let you know about different types of fault, their nature, their characteristics, their waveforms, how the fault can look like, how the fault voltage looks like, what are the relation of reactive powers, real powers, or voltages at the fault terminal. So I think this should have been discussed. But anyway, you can read it by yourself. But I will not go in deep with that because I will not be able to cover my main syllabuses. Okay, so first of all, we want to see that how the fault current looks like. Okay, what should be the maximum value of the fault current, how much period the fault current will sustain for the maximum value, then when it will be lower magnitude, when it will be steady states. Okay, those are the things I'm going to give you some idea about this. So before we do that, uh, what we have done here, oh my god, okay, all right, so this is the alternator or this is a generator. Okay, uh, let us consider a symmetrical fault here. You already know maybe the symmetrical and unsymmetrical faults. Have you studied those things?
Yes, sir.
Have you studied the symmetrical and unsymmetrical faults?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
study, sir.
Okay, tell me one evident advantage of symmetrical faults rather than the unsymmetrical one. What are the advantages and disadvantages of asymmetrical and unsymmetrical one? From a common sense, you can answer if you do not have any technical aspects on that. Do you know it?
Yes, sir. In symmetrical, sir, we know the three line will be going for the ground. Unsymmetrical for the one line that can go the ground. The other two line can run.
Yes, that's the nature of symmetrical and unsymmetrical. But what benefits we get from symmetrical or unsymmetrical fault, or what are the adverse effect that we get from symmetrical or unsymmetrical faults? Just a one.
No idea, sir.
No idea. Okay. Help you. Okay. In terms of in the point of view of analytical aspects, always symmetrical faults is considered to be beneficial for us, because if you analyze the fault current and voltages of one phase only, you eventually know what's happening in the other two phases. That's from the analyzing point of view. All right, because you know the consideration of symmetrical fault actually causes the perfectly balanced condition in the generator or in the power system. So the advantage of perfectly balanced conditions applies to the symmetrical fault also, which is that the analyzing part becomes easier. You do not need to analyze the separate phases, especially the currents and voltages of the separate phases different. Okay, you can analyze only one phase, that what is the fault currents are here, or what is the fault amount at the fault voltage, and eventually you can have a clear idea about what's happening to the other phases, because the other phases will have the same nature. Okay, but this will not happen in case of unsymmetrical fault. The unsymmetrical faults is generally it's been done that all the phases have been analyzed differently, though we have some techniques like symmetrical components which actually tells about how to analyze the unsymmetrical conditions or the unsymmetrical faults in light of the balance conditions or symmetrical conditions. So that's you have already read, I guess, probably from the power system analysis course. Have you heard about zero sequence, positive sequence, negative sequence? So those are the techniques that we have studied to analyze the power systems in unsymmetrical faulty conditions, okay, especially to calculate the currents. Now, another main disadvantage of symmetrical fault is that, for example, you are connected here with the three-phase power line. Okay, three different consumers are connected here. So this will supply this one, this will supply that one, and eventually this one to this. Same goes here. For example, they are connected through the circuit breaker. You can assume a circuit breaker over here. Okay. This is, for example, circuit breaker. Then similarly, this is also circuit breaker. This is circuit breaker. This is circuit breaker. Okay. So normally this circuit breaker are closed. Now, whenever a fault happens here, eventually you know this circuit breaker will be tripped. We already have known that. Okay. The first step is to trip the circuit breaker to stop the fault current and make sure that the component of the equipment doesn't get damaged from the excessive high current flowing or produced due to the fault. Okay. So in this case, the symmetrical fault condition will trip all the circuit breaker. That means you will not get power any three terminal eventually. All right, you will get no power here, you will get no power here, eventually you will get no power here. But if you compare here, for example, a fault has been occurred to here, like let's just call single phase to ground fault. Single phase to ground fault. So for this single phase to ground fault, you see only one phase is involved with the fault. All right. So what will happen? This circuit breaker will be open and stopping the fault current to flow on the other side of the circuit breaker. Okay. Oh, obviously that's the first thing that the circuit breaker does. Whenever fault happens, it trips off. Okay. But the other two phases remains healthy. আমার কথা কি বলছে? All right. So in terms of power flow, you see, if you compare these two cases, symmetrical and unsymmetrical cases, in case of symmetrical fault, no single consumers in this side will get power. Okay. But here, as you have two other healthy phases, if we assume a single phase to ground fault as a symmetrical one, then eventually the consumers in the other two phases, consumers connected to the healthy phases will get the power. Okay. So in terms of service continuity, the unsymmetrical fault is better than the symmetrical one. All right. Have you got the point?
Yes, sir, we get.
But from the analyzing point of view, obviously, being a analytical engineer, you will always expect that to happen a symmetrical fault, because the analyzing part becomes easier for you to calculate. Okay. So in our case, how the fault current looks like or what's happening to the fault current, then we will consider this one, symmetrical fault. Okay, so that if we analyze only one phase only, then we can have also the about the idea of other two phases. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay, now you see the generator or the alternator can be equivalent has a circuit like this. I think you have read those things from your machine courses, don't you? This is the equivalent circuit of alternator or generator. Have you read those things in your machine courses or power system courses?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, so here what we have done here, we have replaced here as we are dealing with only one phase. So I have shown you here with one single AC sources connected to an inductor and resistor. That is the nature of the equivalent circuit. Then as we are considering the fault, so the terminal is shorted to the ground. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
So the fault current eventually looks like this. Sorry. The fault current looks like this. Okay. Now, why it is there? If I get time, I will show you the I guess fault current equation, but I can give you some idea. The total fault current here, IFT, it has two parts. Okay, if you analyze the equation of fault current, we will get two parts. One is the AC component part or oscillatory component part, which is said to be ICT, plus another is the DC component part. Okay, DCT. Now the DC component part is actually directly proportional to sum of the constant of the time constants. Okay, it's negatively exponential proportion to the time constant. So at the very beginning of the fault, when t becomes 0, you see the value of the DC component becomes maximum. So this is the DC component that is shown over here. This is the DC component. Okay, this is the DC component. Okay, so you see at the very beginning of the fault, if you consider this as a zero line, the DC component is maximum. Now the AC part is always additive to the DC component. Okay, so you can simply say that as the DC component value is maximum or very high, so eventually the total fault current will be very high over here at the very beginning of the fault. Okay, now why this DC component has maximum value? Why it is directly proportional to the negative constant of the time? That is explained in the fault current equation that was probably derived in power system analysis courses, or maybe you already have some idea about RL circuit analysis. Okay, so you can get enlightened from there that why this happens. Okay, but this has main two components. One is that the time constant and and another component that is associated is the I must say the armature reaction process. Okay, armature reaction of the process. So please go through these topics from your machine courses, armature reaction and other things. Then you will get proper idea that why this component become maximum. But you can simply explain it from this equation that as the time as the fault this component is inverse is proportional to the negative exponential of the time. So if you put a 0 over here, you see the negative exponential actually looks like this from the mathematical process, e to the power minus ex. You know, if it is x, then if it's magnitude, it is exponentially decayed. Okay, that means for the increase in the x value, the magnitude of the exponential component decreases and it becomes maximum at only 0 point. So it happens here also. If you closer look at this blue wave line, if you take a closer look of this blue waveline, this is actually the DC component has been shown here. You see at very beginning the DC component is maximum as it is directly proportional to the negative exponential component. So it is decaying over the time. If you increase the time, the value of the DC component will be increased, but still it will be almost 50 to 60% of the total AC current. Okay, but the DC component is supposed to be 0. Only at some period. We will discuss those things. This is called steady state period. Because if you put a minus infinity here of if your time constant is very high, then this exponential value of this exponential is actually tends to 0 or very small. So you can simply say that if you can continue through like this up to infinite time, at some point there will be no DC components, or you can simply say that DC component will be 0. So only the AC or the oscillatory component will be in the fault current path. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir, I understand.
So we can simply summarize the statement like this. At the very beginning, the fault current becomes high. Now, how much this fault current will continue? You see, after some shorter period of time, the fault current started to decay. So this very high magnitude fault current actually sustains for half cycle to 1.5 cycle maximum. It has been observed that it clears or the magnitude reduce within 2 cycle, or in some cases maximum 3 cycle. But generally the case is that this maximum value will continue to maximum half cycle of the frequency. Okay, so this is actually known as the subtransient periodic current. This high magnitude current that occurs at the very beginning of the fault is classified as subtransient fault current. Have you heard about this name?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is called subtransient fault current. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you take a closer look at again the exponential component, it is decaying over time. So it is T. This is the DC component here over here. I can separately draw it like this. So you see, with the increase of the time, that means whenever the fault current is flowing with some time, sometimes is elapsed, then eventually the magnitude of the DC component reduces. Okay, and so does the magnitude of the total fault current, because always remember that the total fault current, which is actually the summation of AC component or oscillatory component plus the DC component. Okay, normally the AC component doesn't have any variation over the time because it will oscillate, but it will have a constant RMS value. Okay, but the magnitude of the fault current is actually depends on the DC component. So you see, whenever the time actually time is passing for a longer period of time, the magnitude of the fault current is reducing. You see, the magnitude is reducing. Can you see it? And
Yes,
after some time, it will reach at a steady state period. When it will happen, I'll let you know. So, sorry. So, the reduced magnitude of the fault current from subtransient period is actually called as transient fault current. So, what we get here at the very beginning, the fault current will be maximum. It will continue to flow. At least it will continue to sustain within up to half cycles. Then it will the magnitude of the fault current will started reducing, and it will reach to another period which is normally called as subtransient period. Okay, so you already have two periods and you already have two types of fault current. One is the fault current of the transient period, which is named as subtransient fault current. It is denoted by IF double prime. Then the fault current magnitude is reduced after some time. Then it reaches to another time period which is called, or which is classified as transient period. Then the fault current of little bit lower magnitude than the subtransient period is called as the transient period current or transient period fault current, is denoted by IF. Then if you have very longer period of time flow, or if you continue this fault for a very longer period of time, let's say T is equals to very high, close to infinity, then you see at some point close to infinity, the DC component will be 0 or close to 0. That means in the fault current path, if the DC component becomes 0, or if the DC component becomes very small, then the fault current is directly associated with only one component, which is the alternating component or the oscillatory component. So that's why you see the fault value is steady at a period, because the varying nature, which was actually DC component, okay, that was vanished, that was not sustained. So only the oscillatory component actually presents in the fault current part. Okay, this is called as steady state period, or the current associated with this period is called as steady state period current. Have you got this? But in case of practical, let me clear you one thing. This steady state period will be achieved if you allow the fault current to flow very longer period of time. But in case of practical scenario, we don't get that. Why we don't get that? Because like I said you before, that in the power system, not a single point is unprotected. That means every single item or component or point in the power system should be protected by either some protective device. That is normally circuit breaker, but in lower voltage systems, sometimes we use as fuse. So these protective devices operate very quickly, because we already discussed these things also, that we cannot flow the fault current for a very longer period of time, because generally the magnitude of the fault current will be higher than the rating of the nominal current. Okay, so the more the value of the higher fault current, the more the probability of getting the damage of your appliances or for your equipment or the whole power system is, you can simply say that. All right, so that's why it is generally, in case of practical scenario, the circuit breaker or the protective devices trips within this one, within the transient period. So in practical scenario, we never achieve this steady state fault current, because we do not allow the fault current to flow up to that period of time. Okay, before that, the normally protective device actually takes part in its actions and it actually operates. But in case of theoretical scenario, yes, you will have three parts in the fault current. One is called subtransient one is called transient one, and another is the steady state fault current. But in practical cases, the steady state fault current is never achieved, because the protective devices clears the fault or trips off, stopping the fault current flow before the steady state period appears. All right.
Yes, sir.
Have you got it?
We get, sir.
Do you have any question? Do you have any question, guys?
Maybe not, sir.
Let's take a 2-minute break. Okay, I'll continue after that.
Okay.
Okay, guys, any questions from your side? If you have any questions regarding up to this one, you can go and ask for it. Okay. Any questions from your side? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can hear you.
Yes.
No, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can hear you, sir. No question, sir.
No questions?
Yes,
I
sir.
guess anyone wanted to ask any questions. Do you have any question?
Yes, sir. He says that, sir. No question.
All right. Okay, I think I should end today because I have another work to do. I will continue it from the next class. Okay. Before that, if you need any kind of resources, you can just here also. You will find many documents regarding this fault analysis in the Googles or YouTube's. So I suggest you or I recommend you to study those things before I explain the next topics to you. Okay. Because understanding the fault nature is very important. As we are dealing with only protective devices, that means the analysis part will normally omit in this course. But without proper analysis of the fault, you cannot protect a power system. Because what should be the rating of the circuit breaker? What should be the breaking capacity? What should be the making capacity? All these things are actually or will be coming from the analysis of a particular system. For example, you are designing some protective device for area A. Okay. All right. So before you select the proper rating of the circuit breaker, here we are dealing with the selection of the circuit breaker, only just protective devices. But the fact is what? The fact is under beneath it. What is that? You can select the proper circuit breaker only when you know that if any uncertainty or if any faulty condition arises in area A, what will be the maximum fault current? What will be the minimum fault current? What breaking capacity should this circuit breaker should have? What making capacity should have? All these parameters have to be calculated before you go for buying this circuit breaker. All right.
Yes, sir.
Understood or not? So what we do here, or being a power engineer, what we do, we normally analyze it. We simulate it, or we analyze it, or we calculate it in different ways, like for single line to ground fault, for double line to ground fault, for symmetrical, for all the considerations we consider all these parameters over here. Then we analyze these properties, the fault currents. Then associated with this fault current, we can calculate the short circuit capacity, we can calculate breaking capacity, we can calculate making capacity, and after that we can actually properly go and buy for a proper circuit breaker over here. Okay. So though we are dealing with this only these protective devices, though we deal only protective devices, but it is an essential, or I must say that you must know about this analysis part also, because without proper analyzing you cannot never be able to select a proper switching devices for the protections. Okay. Understood? So if you have any lackings over the courses or concept, I think you can go and clear it by yourself. You can take help from the internet. There are many resources over there like YouTube videos, some PDF files, lecture materials, all the components are there. I suggest you go there, have a look before I start the next one. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir. I understand, sir. Okay.
Anything else? Please do it by before the next class. Okay. Then if you have any questions, if you have any unclear things or unsorted things from the reading, you can ask me the questions or materials so that I can try to clear some of this. Okay. Though I will not get enough time, but I will try. All right.
Okay, sir.
It is generally assumed in my course that you know these things. Okay. That's why the analysis part is totally omitted in switchgear, because that part was supposed to be discussed in the power system analysis course. Okay. So again, I'm focusing on you that if you have any lackings over there, you try it by yourself, you try to clear it out. Okay. Then it will be easier for you to understand the next sequential topics. All right. Understood my points? Have you got my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if you have any question, you can ask, or I will end today. Do you have any questions? Anyone? Do you have any question?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. One thing, I will not be able to take your class in the next Saturday due to my exam. So inshallah, we will meet you. I will meet you again on the next Tuesday. Okay. Saturday, I will not be able to take your any class. All right.
Okay, sir. No problem.
Please let others know. I will definitely reschedule that class to the other days, I guess. But I will take your next class in the next Tuesday. Okay. All right.
Okay, sir. Fine.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.